Thousands of residents of a Nebuch town took to the streets in a massive rally in support of the Syrian Arab Army. Syrian Arab Army units control Sarda and Tila in Deir ez-Zor countryside, foiling the terrorists' aim to cut the international road of Damascus-Daraa. Erdogan government gives health insurance to terrorists and provides the expenses of their treatment outside its territories. Good afternoon, welcome to our news bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. Deputy Prime Minister of Foreign and Expatriates Minister, head of the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation to Geneva II conference, Walid al-Muallim, stressed that the Syrian side rejected a U.S. request in Montreux for direct dialogue with the tools embodied in the coalition delegation, the so-called opposition, unless the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry apologizes for what he had said during the opening speech of the conference. In a statement to the media delegation accompanying the official delegation aboard the plane which is taking the delegation back to Damascus, al-Muallim said in response to a question on the rejection of coalition to the draft statement submitted by the Syrian official delegation condemning terrorism, "This rejection is a smirch on the forehead of the coalition's delegation, and any person in the world who suffered from terrorism will adopt this draft statement." Answering a question on the unjust sanctions imposed on the Syrian people, al-Muallim said, "We are dealing with an international community whose majority is unjust. It is an international community that adopts double standards policies and mostly dominated by the US, so when they say international community, we laugh, as they do not represent the international community, for if we take into consideration the population of Russia, China, India and the BRICS countries, we find that they are the international community and not the other side. But unfortunately, they dominate the UN Security Council and the UN." He wondered how the West wants to be in Geneva dialogue and they impose sanctions on the Syrian people and children, adding that he asked Catherine Ashton, the European Union's foreign policy chief in Montreux, to explain how the West bans milk and foodstuff and deprives the Syrian people of them. On the other hand, the West presents the issue of humanitarian aid shipments. Al-Muallim wondered how the US could support Iraq in combating the so-called Islamic State in Iraq and Sham group and label that group as a terrorist group, and at the same time provide weapons to these terrorists in Syria in public and along Geneva conference, adding that this side is the side that was responsible for the attacks in New York and is responsible for terrorist attacks in Syria, and no one knows where these targets will be later. He added that these double standards policies are rejected.
بما أنك تحدثت عن السيد الرئيس، لطالما رح يتحدثوا عن صلاحيات السيد الرئيس وأنه ما رح يكون بمرحلة انتقالية قادمة، كيف رح يتم التعاطي مع هذا الموضوع؟
شوفي، أنا أريد أن أوضح نقطة جوهرية. هذه الأوهام التي حملهم إياها مؤيدوهم وداعموهم، إذا لم يتخلوا عنها سيصابوا بصدمة الواقع. نحن بلد فيه دستور، فيه مؤسسات، فيه حكومة، فيه مجلس شعب.
Syria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Bashar Jafari, said that the coalition delegation of the so-called opposition came to Geneva with presuppositions based on incorrect data and on personal grudges against the state, not based on a political opposition program. In an interview given to the Syrian TV, al-Jafari said that during the 8 days of talks in Geneva, the coalition did not present any political vision or program, nor did it show any sense of responsibility, as from the first moment they wanted to discuss the transitional governing body, acting in subordination to those who think for them, which caused them to suffer intellectual poverty, and thus created a massive rift in performance between them and the Syrian Arab Republic delegation. He pointed out that the Syrian Arab Republic delegation began by testing the other side's readiness to be actually patriotic by addressing and specifying the priorities of patriotism, such as Syria's independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, rejecting foreign interference and rejecting terrorism and violence. Al-Jafari added that these points, which were supposed to represent common denominators before going in depth, were rejected by the coalition delegation of the so-called opposition, showing the large rift between the two positions, adding that this is why the Syrian Arab Republic delegation suggested discussing the most pressing issues which Syrians shouldn't disagree upon, including humanitarian issues, counter-terrorism, detainees and abductees. Al-Jafari said that the coalition delegation rejected all papers presented by the Syrian Arab Republic delegation before even reading them, let alone discussing them, noting that this was a test of the honesty of their intentions and their readiness to engage in dialogue. In Damascus countryside in Nebek town, the residents took to the streets and main squares to express support for the Syrian Arab Army in its operations against the armed terrorist groups. The Ministry of Health has launched the third national anti-polio campaign. The 5-day campaign targets children under 5. Noteworthy is that this is the third campaign among the 6 scheduled and planned by the Ministry of Health, with a month interval between each after discovering a number of polio cases in the country. The former campaign finished on December the 16th, 2013 and reached 2.2 million children.
Ministry of Health, UNICEF and WHO has also worked together with the Syrian Arab Red Crescent Society to reach every child. And we have succeeded in vaccinating 2.3 million children. It is very important for parents to understand that their child might be vaccinated, but it can still be the carrier of the polio virus. And that is why we have to do the 6 rounds to make sure that we also kill the virus which is in a child that is a carrier. So it's not just to protect the child, but it is also to protect that the virus is circulating in Syria.
The Arab Ba'ath Socialist Party, in cooperation with Damascus Province, have educational and instructional lectures in various domains held in a number of sheltering centres with the aim to communicate with the residents inside these centres and to ensure continuity of teaching their children. The lectures also aim to raise social and cultural awareness of those displaced through tackling topics like women's and children's rights and the role to be played by the youth. The Syrian government, since the beginning of the crisis, is keen to give humanitarian aid to everyone in need, in every spot on the Syrian soil, without any distinguishment between an area over the other or a citizen over the other.
The Syrian official delegation in Geneva too emphasized that the Syrian government doesn't prefer an area to another, showing that the humanitarian aid enters all places, not only homes, as humanitarian aid was being delivered to all areas a year ago as a plan between Syria and the UN, adding that delivering aid to any place in Syria during the current circumstances has nothing to do with Geneva. It is an agreement signed between the Syrian government and the UN 2 years ago, whereas there is a number of areas which are still under terrorist control and suffering from horrible conditions with lack of food and medical tools due to continuous clashes which prevent the humanitarian aid from being delivered into these places.
We distribute all the aids we receive from the Red Crescent organization. The distribution includes all citizens from all Syrian areas. We try to offer the best service to citizens. We ensure the requirements of all families through distributing food packages.
I am from Aleppo. We receive everything from this center. I came here last summer.
I fled my house in Al-Qadam and came here without anything. Over the past year and a half, they helped me with all possible things, including food and blankets.
أنا اسمي رياض حمزة من القصير حمص.
I am Riyad Hamza from Al Qusayr. I have been displaced along with my family. 4 members of my family fell martyrs. I registered in this center and received aid several times. I deeply thank the staff of the center.
I am from Aleppo. I registered in this center from the beginning of the crisis and received food packages and blankets several times.
I was displaced from my house in Al Qaboon. I deeply thank the staff of the center who offer best services to us.
أنا شامية وساكنة بدومة.
I registered in this center a year and a half ago. The center is excellent as it gives us all possible aid.
نحن في هذا المركز مركز هلال الأحمر العربي السوري.
We opened the center a year and a half ago, and we received displaced citizens from all Syrian areas to offer them various aids and requirements. Another center was recently opened to meet the needs of other displaced.
The Syrian government is still assisting the impacted people and those who were obliged to leave their homes from any area without exceptions, as it provides food, cleaning stuff and blankets, in addition to kitchen tools and babies' diapers, benefiting more than 4,100 affected families from many places.
As part of the peaceful popular initiative to resolve the crisis in Yarmouk camp and with the support of the Syrian government, a new shipment of aid was delivered to the camp to alleviate the suffering of the locals besieged by terrorists. Head of the Palestinian Popular Reconciliation Committee, Mohammed Al-Omari, said that 980 food baskets have been delivered to Yarmouk camp and distributed among the families in it. He noted that the Palestinian Popular Committees also evacuated 150 persons, including 6 women and elderly people who were rushed to Damascus hospitals for treatments. Al-Omari said that earlier 1,145 food baskets were delivered to locals in the camp and 7 people were evacuated despite the terrorists' attacks on popular committees while delivering food baskets. He praised the facilitations and steps taken by the government to help deliver aid to the camp.
We appreciate the support of the Syrian authorities, the government of Syria, from the various highest levels to the ground here. The progress we have achieved in providing food parcels to more than 2,500 families over the past 2 days and today. That progress is important. We need to continue providing that support for the civilians of Yarmouk who have suffered for so long, and we would want that support to continue to the point where we can say that we have comprehensive, open and sustained humanitarian access to Yarmouk and the civilians who live here.
In Homs countryside, the Syrian Arab Army units carried out a successful operation in Palmyra at the Syrian-Jordanian borders to the west of El Tanaf, with about 100 kilometers, destroying a truck carrying terrorist ammunition and arms. Moreover, the Syrian Arab Army units killed and injured a number of terrorists in an ambush along Homs-Sadad main road as they were trying to infiltrate via the Lebanese border to Homs' southeastern countryside. The Syrian Arab Army units carried out a tight ambush against the armed terrorist groups in Mashrafa, an area on the road of Ain al-Nasir, al-Sheikh Hamid and Homs countryside. The news reporter in Homs said that 10 terrorists at least were killed and others were wounded, in addition to the destruction of vehicles loaded with arms and ammunition. In Al-Qadam area in Damascus countryside, units of armed forces pursued members of armed terrorist groups in Bor Said neighborhood after killing all members of the terrorist groups that positioned along the new Damascus Sahnaya Road and Al-Kiswa Old Road. In a relevant context, 6 from Wadi Barada area have turned themselves in to the competent authorities to have their files settled after they had pledged not to commit any illegal act. rights. In Deir ez-Zor, the Syrian Arab Army units regained complete control over the areas of Al-Tharda and Al-Tila, which are adjacent to the international road that link between Deir ez-Zor and Al-Mayadin cities, eliminating a large number of terrorists who were located in the area and destroyed their ammunition. Justice and Development Government has crowned the role it has been playing with full conviction through harbouring and arming the extremist terrorists and transferring them via the Syrian-Turkish border to shed the blood of the Syrian people. By enacting laws that facilitate the harbouring of these terrorists, after adding an article to a law among a package of laws submitted to the Turkish parliament, stipulating the provisions of health services to members of the terrorist groups at the expense of Turkey's interior minister, even if they were to be admitted to hospitals outside Turkey for treatment. The new article has been faced with fierce rejection by the opposition parties that called for abolishing it.
All the terrorists of the world who came into Syria came through Turkey. Or, if I don't want to exaggerate, the majority of them came through Turkey. And I think Erdogan and Ahmed Davutoglu are personally responsible for each drop of blood in Syria. And they must be accountable before the Turkish people. The Syrian people and the Turkish people are brothers and sisters. And it was President Bashar al-Assad who initiated this great relationship with the Turkish people. It seems to me some people in the government of Turkey do not want such a relationship between the two neighboring countries and between the two sisterly peoples. However, I think the responsibility for Erdogan and for Ahmed Davutoglu is the responsibility of the Turkish people. We leave this for the Turkish people, and by the way, the Turkish people has been always in the forefront of condemning these policies by the Turkish government, which has allowed these gangs from all over the world to come from all Europe and other places to kill Syrians. Thank you to the Turkish people.
A German demonstrator has attacked the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, describing him as a criminal and a killer, in a sign of rejection of the United States policy that triggers wars in different parts of the world.
Mörder! Kriegstreiber! Verpisst euch!
With this, we end the news for today. Thank you for watching us. For more details about Syria and the region, you can always visit our bulletin, syriaonline.sy. After the break, it's Vani with our economic and business news. God bless Syria.
Good afternoon. The Director of Payment in the Syrian Commercial Bank said that about 60 ATMs will be in service in the coming 3 months, after signing a contract between the bank and a local company to carry out the maintenance work. On the other hand, the bank has set an emergency plan to deal with the ATM problems. The director of the Agricultural Bank stressed that it delivered 210 million Syrian pounds for the cotton crop in the town of Salhab in western Hama. Cotton has been marketed to the gents from the farmers, while the funding of the winter crops is still going on, such as wheat and sugar beet. With the participation of about 100 Syrian companies, the second exhibition of clothes Syria Moda began at the Phoenicia Hotel in Beirut. It is organized by the Association of Syrian Exports of Clothing and Textile in collaboration with the Exports Development and Promotion Body. The head of the body asserted its keenness to provide all facilities to hold such exhibitions both inside and outside Syria in order to open selling opportunities in the international markets. The Jewelers Assembly warned of selling attempts of non-golden metals as gold. The Assembly also declared that some violators have false bills and that they are showing them to the jewelers. So the Assembly has warned them to make sure that these pieces are stamped, while it has put new mechanisms for monitoring the market in order to stop the violation of golden pieces. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.